Part 19. So once the fullness of the times had come, Jesus Christ was born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were born under the law. Abraham was the first generation of the tribes of Israel, and Jesus Christ was the last generation of the tribes of Israel. In the book of Matthew, it'll tell you, it says the book of the generation of Jesus Christ. And he was to save the remnant of the tribes of Israel and end Israel. Whenever God called Abraham, he said this will be a covenant with Abraham for 1,000 generations. We translated that word to 1,000. But the word in the original Hebrew for 1,000 was Eleph, which means tribes. And if you put that out the way that it was supposed to be written, it would say, Abraham, this is a covenant with you until the completion of the tribes. That's why it would say it was perpetual in your generations. It repeated that many times. This is a covenant, perpetual in your generations. It was not 1,000 generations from Abraham until Christ. Again, Matthew chapter 1, the book of the generation of Jesus Christ, tells you that it was 42 generations from Abraham until Christ. It was 14 generations from Abraham until David, 14 generations from David until the carrying away into Babylon, 14 generations from the carrying away into Babylon until Christ. And then it tells you what a generation was. It was a father was a generation, then a son was a generation. Abraham was a generation, Isaac was a generation, Jacob was a generation. David was a generation, Solomon was a generation. It's a time in which that age lives. Same way we do generations today. You ever see a family picture, a 4-generation family picture? You got the great-grandmother, the grandmother, the mother, and the child. And the wise men knew the scriptures. They knew it was the time. They saw his star. They knew that it was 400 years of silence. They knew that the temple was building. They knew that the Messiah was going to be born. They saw it, you know the story, they went over there and gave him gifts, the king of the Jews, the king of Israel. Herod also knew. Herod would have been privy to everything that they believed. He had many scholarly and Herodians and Pharisees and scribes all around him. He asked the scribes, whenever they said Jesus was born, he said, tell me where so I can come and worship him. Where's he supposed to be born? They said Bethlehem, because he's from David. And Bethlehem was turned into, the name Bethlehem came from the city of David. So Herod told the wise men, hey, whenever you find him, come back and tell me so I can come worship him. The wise men were warned in a dream not to go back to Herod because he was going to try to kill the child. And then Joseph was warned in a dream to take the child and flee to Egypt until Herod was dead, which would only be months, if a year at all. And this is what it is talking about in Revelation chapter 12, whenever it tells you there was a woman clothed with the sun, and upon her head were 12 stars, and under her feet was the moon, and she travailed in birth and brought forth a man-child. They had to travail in birth. That was the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 stars on her crown. They had to travail in birth. Once there was enough people who prayed and fasted and eunuchs and people overcoming, then Jesus Christ would have power to be born. God could not just send Christ. Christ was light and the world was in darkness. If you turn on a light, darkness dies. It's gone. It's put to death unwillingly. But if darkness repents of itself, then it can be saved. So God had to get himself a seed, to be circumcised, to cut off where the flesh seed came from, and travail in birth and bring forth a man from their seed once they were worthy enough through all that they had done and accomplished. And as soon as she travailed in birth and brought forth a man-child, Satan tried to devour the child as soon as it was born. This tells you many times in the Bible, it'll tell you that the Satan of their time were the unbelieving Jews and the rulers in Israel. That was Herod trying to kill all the babies under 2 years old around Bethlehem, trying to kill Jesus Christ, but the child would be caught up to God and to his throne. As soon as Herod was dead, he had another dream to come back, because those that wanted him dead were dead, Herod. And Joseph was scared, so he turned into Galilee instead of going back to Jerusalem or Bethlehem. Herod knew what it meant. He wouldn't be afraid of a child. He knew what that meant for them to say the King of the Jews is born. They knew the scriptures. They didn't tell the lay people the scriptures, but they knew the scriptures. And the scriptures said that in the time of the Messiah, that the leaders would reject him, and he would destroy them and grind them to powder. So Herod wanted Jesus dead. Herod would have no legacy to leave if Jesus Christ was the king. Of course, Herod was thinking fleshly that this Jesus would take over his throne here on earth, because the law was a stumbling block so that the people could not hear